machine learning to program content to users on a one-to-one level. So, some of when the company got started, I actually was in Anderson as an academic intern at the time. And essentially the problem they're trying to solve, affects kind of like three groups. Video is one of the fastest growing forms of media, but most people watch it on YouTube, Facebook, and there's so much choice out there. So content curation, how do I find the stuff I want to find? How do I find new stuff potentially that interests me? Publishers also are having a challenge with that too, because if they're creating all this great content, but people are watching it not on their own platforms, they're not making as much money as they could be making. And if you're an advertiser, you want to get your audience, you want to get your targeting, but you also want to be in a brand safe environment. So part of the reason why the company was created was, all right, let's try to solve the content curation problem. We want to be able to watch great high quality content and top quality journalism. So, these newspapers, these magazines, these broadcasters, so we can be able to make money by doing it. So the idea was, well, what if we bring that same kind of technology that makes Netflix succeed, YouTube succeed, Amazon, and Apple, which is like compelling user experiences, and that's licensed to everybody else. So we're B2B software as a service. Our clients are like AccuWeather, USA Today, CBS. So if you go on a website, in this day and age, right, we all want different things. We're not watching the same thing at the same time. So essentially, we'll go in there to a video player environment. You'll choose the first video, but after that, our recommendation engine will decide what to show you next in a continuous stream. So instead of saying one broadcast for millions of people, we're creating millions of broadcasts for millions of people. So when you're able to program on a one-to-one level, you watch a little bit longer. So if you're a company which monetizes by selling ads, you watch one or two more ads per session, you're making more money. Or if you're subscription-based, getting higher subscriber yield from people who are there. So the company is now 5 years old. I started there as a business development academic intern, doing research, putting things together, and now managing marketing and our next level go-to-market strategies and e-commerce and a variety of other areas.
So when you talked about go-to-market strategies, for you, can you just talk a little bit about adoption and how you approach getting enterprise clients? About what you're doing?
Sure. So, the first stage when you start anything, anybody is a good client. You need to get as many logos as possible on your site. You have to convince the world there's a problem, the solution exists, and why they should try you first, right? So, it's really challenging. So what we did was we realized that every company or broadcaster or publisher has a video player. So there was a debate in the initial stage, should we create our own video player to serve our technology? Ultimately, it made more sense for us to work with everybody else. So we found all the major video players, created plugins so that we were agnostic. So we were able to leverage their network. So we went to one of the biggest video players out there is called Brightcove. And so we had a partnership with them. They helped us with their clients who work in that way, while at the same time going over the top and meeting with our network of advisors as well to kind of get those intros and just keep going on and on and on until we got somebody to say yes, and then incrementally just keep building upon that, get those case studies, get those logos on there, and then eventually the biggest challenge after that is once the market understands that there's a problem, there's a solution exists. The next challenge isn't the competitor that does what you do; it's those big broadcasters thinking that they can do it themselves. And then you have to deal with these longer sales cycles. So being able to then really understand your customer, understand their wants, needs, and fears, segmenting those out very carefully, and figuring out what do they stand to gain from your solution, which is more than just the technology itself. So the insights, the data, how are they going to get a promotion by using your technology to a point where they're advocating with the organization for you instead of you just pitching it, like a door-to-door sales.
Love it. And that's the perfect segment of this.
Yes, not quite door to door, but I do work in sales. I'm an industry director for Twitter. I'm on the monetization side of the house, so I manage the team calling on automotive clients nationally, basically every major OEM that has a presence in the U.S. along with their affiliated agencies. I am a FEMBA graduate, 2014, and here really to help talk to clients and share with them some of the future plans in Twitter and continue to get them excited about our solution. solutions for their marketing, ultimately business challenges.
And again, same question to you in terms of dealing with enterprise clients, in particular in the sector. What are some of the things that you've learned through your experience about how you get those people excited about what you're doing?
Sure. I think to echo Rohan's point, it's ultimately about solving a problem, and that requires you and your team to be able to identify the problem, identify the right problem, and position yourself in a way that ultimately builds champions from within your organization to really tell your story for you. I think there's no better success than to sit down with the client and have them start parroting back the things that your team has been saying over and over, and you say, oh, right, you have been listening in those meetings. And I think where we're truly successful is where I see that happening, and ultimately that's a matter of identifying product market fit to the problems that these marketing leads are really struggling to solve for. And obviously there's a massive amount of choice in the market, and it's very easy to go with very big media providers that reach everyone on the planet. And so it's up to us to have a go-to-market approach that really sets us apart and doesn't say, don't go with the big guys, but says, do what you believe is right for your business, but here's why we are a really integral part of a solution that we believe will solve your business challenge.
So with that, I'm going to ask my first question of the whole panel. But if, like I said earlier, I'm going to just say it again. If you guys, there's still a couple of seats up here closer. So if any of you have problems hearing, or if you feel like you scrunched up by the back door, now's a good time to start moving. So you guys have talked about what motivated you to get into the business. You talked about some of the challenges with respect to engaging clients and so forth. It seems like there's a feedback loop. That is to say, you have a vision for an approach for solving a problem, but then the market is going to tell you whether or not that solution has value. Data, research, analytics, conversations with customers, etc., can all potentially influence that feedback loop. I'd just love to hear from some of you about what are the meaningful inputs for you. What are you measuring? What are you hearing? Why does it matter? And then how do you use that information to get your team to do what they're supposed to do relative to the product?
I can start here. So that's huge for us, right? Being a consumer product and following the customer journey at various stages. I think some of the mistakes we make sometimes is we take an initial touch point and we kind of just forget what happened after 6 months. Are they still happy with the product? And really, customer feedback is at the core of what we do, specifically from parents' side, but not just from parents, obviously also from children. So what we actually have is we leverage 3 different surveying programs. One called Purchase. That's the initial touch point where, was it easy to find your watch? What about the watch drew you to purchase? And then 6 months later, we do something that we call a pulse survey, where we sort of we're gauging, 6 months later, now that the newness has worn off, what is your sentiment? What is your appetite? And then lastly, we also survey our customers that leave, right? Like, what was it about the product that they leave? Was it the product? Was it the subscription based? And then the data itself that we gather is both quantitative and qualitative. We leverage text analytics and scale questions to actually assign value to product attributes. We